I wasn't really utilizing that resource for the longest time. I think I only really started to tap into self-talk, visualization, like, speaking things into existence, manifestation till COVID. Who am I if I'm not performing, right? Do I have value? Am I still desirable? Like if my job, as I've known it, kind of stops. And that turned COVID from like what many people saw as a stagnant phase, like a peak creative phase for me.
What was it for you that led to that conviction? Was it fake it till you make it? Or what was it for you?
First, you have to give yourself the audacity to just dream first. Because when you have this thing that you're calling in, the world, the universe doesn't necessarily just give you what you want, it gives you what you need.
Today's guest is a true creative powerhouse, a singer, actor, music producer, talk show host, and filmmaker who is all about breaking boundaries, expressing bold ideas, and connecting people in powerful new ways. I'm talking about Jonathan Wong. From Hong Kong's music scene to viral hits and now a full-length feature film, Jonathan has always pushed the limits, growing, evolving, and innovating at every stage of his journey. He's built a global career by facing his fears, creating opportunities, and bringing people together through his art. If you've ever wondered how to get unstuck, how to move past self-doubt, or take your dreams to the next level, this episode is for you. Jonathan gets real about the mindset shifts, the self-talk, and the behind-the-scenes moments that have helped him go from local performer to international creator. You will leave this conversation inspired and ready to take action on your own big ideas. Let's get into it. All right. Well, Jonathan, it is a real full circle moment for me right now to be speaking to you on this podcast show. I still remember us working together in those years,
Yeah,
those earlier years, as
yeah,
your vocal coach. And when you were
yeah.
preparing, I remember for your that major concert series in Wan Chai Convention Center in Hong Kong. And now, so many years
2012.
later, was it 2012?
Yeah, we
I
were
was
we were
trying.
training like every day or every other day. So, and then after that, still we had classes after that too.
Yeah.
That's it.
And now, so many years later, here we are. You're not just a successful vocal performer, but you're a multi hyphenate, right? Entrepreneur, storyteller, actor, producer, music, and film. So, looking back on everything that you've built so far, how important has your self talk and your mindset been in your journey?
It's been incredibly important. I think I wasn't really utilizing that um, resource um, for the longest time. I think I only really started to tap into self-talk, visualization, like, speaking things into existence, manifestation, like all this. I wasn't really tapped into that until COVID. So basically, during COVID, I was in LA. I had originally um, gone there because I thought, because my agent over there was like, oh, it's pilot season. Like, this is going to be the time when, like, you get to shoot a bunch of stuff, and then we'll see if it flies with the studios, and then maybe we'll have the TV show. So for those of you who don't know what like a pilot is or what pilot season is, so in America, they have this system where most of the TV shows you see, the first episode is usually what's called a pilot, and it's usually shot as a test. And a lot of pilots never make it to market. So there's a lot of dead pilots, and then the shows that you see are like, so, a lot of actors go to LA to shoot a bunch of pilots and see what flies. So that's what I was there for. But then nothing shot because it was COVID. Very shortly after I landed in April, everything shut down. Um, it was not yet fully shut down when I flew, but when I landed, basically everything shut down. And so I was like, okay, shows in Hong Kong are canceled. All movie and TV stuff in Hong Kong was on hold. I had some stuff coming out that I was like virtually promoting. What am I gonna do? And I had this kind of crisis of identity, which a lot of performers have, which is like, who am I if I'm not performing, right? Do I have value? Am I still desirable? Like, if my job, as I've known it, kind of stops. Does that mean like I'll be forgotten by the time like this thing is over? So I started meditating. I started being really clear on what I really wanted. And what I discovered was me being so busy as a performer actually was blocking me from tapping into like my true vision for what I wanted to be, which was like an all-around creator, somebody who would create opportunities for like a lot of people through the art I was creating. I was so focused on like doing the things for myself and maybe small groups surrounding me that I didn't know that was actually in my heart of hearts, that was my goal. So I started to, in those days where nothing was happening, where no meetings were like really happening, I told myself, okay, if my goal is to build this giant platform for people like excellent artists from all over the world to congregate, to create, to give to audiences, like what am I going to do? And I started working backwards. I saw that thing, I am, the founder of the world's largest cross-cultural studio, and I moved back. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? What is the 1 year plan? What's the 6 month plan? What is the 3 week plan? What is today? And then I was like, oh, I get it now. I get to do one thing today to get a little bit closer. And that turned COVID from like what many people saw as a stagnant phase to like a peak creative phase for me. A lot of the projects that I'm on right now that were created during that time.
That's amazing. I just want to
Yeah.
cycle back to a few things that you said here, just to make sure that I think you dropped some pretty wonderful things that you said here. I think what I heard you say is that during COVID, you had already planned, you had a vision of doing something in a certain way, you had a
Yeah.
pathway. Then COVID comes and that completely changes the path for
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
And during that time, when the whole world was shutting down, there was unpredictability. Instead of just getting swept up in it, I feel like what you said is you asked yourself some big questions.
Mhm.
And I think that in those times of darkness or unpredictability, it's the questions that we ask ourselves that
Yeah.
forces us to come up with a different response. And you mentioned just now that crisis of identity. And this question is so relevant. Who am I if I am not performing? But this can be any word. Who am I if I am not this? Am I if I am not a mother? If I am not this provider or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
I
Or
think
I
this
don't
is
have this job,
I don't have this job, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a whatever, then this is a question that I think is very human, and every one of us at some point in our lifetime is going to ask that. But I just want to go back into what you said about meditation, and you said it occurred to me, and I just want to dial back into that. What was what it did? Was it an inner calling? Was it a voice? Was it an image? How did you know this is what I want
Yeah.
before you could project that future image of yourself?
It's an ongoing process for me because I feel like in order for me to fully be passionate and clear about something, I do need to shut off sometimes the outside voices, the expectations, um, the rules and kind of formulaic ways of doing things. And the only way to do that is to really tap in, right? And to really tap your intuition, um, it takes a lot of like inner work where you kind of have to first you have to get out of your own way, right? So the first thing that I did when I was meditating was I had to let go of certain things that I thought were limitations.
Like what?
Like, is it too late for me to like really pivot hard into like basically building a new company and then like producing things outside of a region that I had been for like over a decade? Like, I up till that point, up till COVID, I had only worked in Asia. Yes, I had like an agent in America, but that was supposed to be my first time working with him, like on the ground, and obviously it did nothing. So I was like, but my calling is to do this thing that is global, and
How
I
did you know
feel
that was the global thing was your calling? Then I want for you, was it a feeling? Was it a knowing? I think a lot of people that I work with is, and people I speak to is, they feel like they don't know their calling. My personal belief is that we all have inner knowing. We actually know, but like you're saying, we have to get out of our own way. But then when we get out of our own way, in your own experience, was it a vision, like I said, or is it something that you just always knew? Like you've always known it deep down, and then you just had to clear the clutter to really get clarity? What was that for you?
Yeah. Well, I first had to say that I was good enough to pursue that goal. The breadcrumbs were there. I mean, throughout my career, I've always done things that have attempted to bridge cultural borders. I remember my first album, my first three singles, maybe even four, three singles. They were trilingual, so I had three versions of each single. In the
I
Hong Kong
remember.
market, in the Hong Kong market, that is like completely, it's just like it's not efficient. Like nobody, no radio station is playing all three versions of that. But in my head, I was like, some way, somehow, the English version or the Mandarin version is gonna travel to somewhere that I don't expect, and like that's where I want to be. I want to be open to that level of connectivity and success. And I kept doing it. I remember the concert I worked with you on. That was a Hong Kong concert, but that album was a Mandarin album. It was a fully Mandarin album, which in the Hong Kong market, again, like that's not a thing. You sell Canto pop, you sell Cantonese songs, and so I always knew I had that ambition, and it is actually no fault of anybody who's worked with me that it hasn't traveled. It's my fault for thinking that this was my playing field. This was all I was like destined to be, is like this sandbox. But then I realized, like, if I'm connecting with these frequencies and these dreams and these images and these like audiences that are so far and wide, why am I not physically there? Like, what is it that's stopping me? And it was simply self-doubt. That's like, am I even competitive outside of these borders? Am I am I still considered like edgy or like innovative if I leave this town or this city? And so that was like the first thing. And then it was really good that I kind of, all right, now that I'm stuck in LA because I can't fly, are you good enough to compete or create in LA? Well, you're gonna find out because you got nowhere else to go. So it was just like taking that first step, working with script writers there, and hearing their feedback about the stuff that I was working on, like in terms of show concepts. They were, oh, that's genius! Like that could work. Working with songwriters there, they're like, whoa, that's like it's a great melody. Or working with producers, they're like, oh, I love this sound. And I was like, oh, I had it, but I just kept telling myself no. Um, so that was the first part, and that's that's the outside world practical experience mixed in with some of that decluttering, in those quiet moments of meditation, and sometimes like talking to my inner child, looking at things in my past that made me believe that um, these things are not for me, right?
Did
And
you have to learn these things, or did you intuitively figure that out through just giving yourself a lot of quiet time?
I learned some of it. Some of it I took some courses online, some things relating to like meditation, but as it pertains to like goal setting and finding that like passion and vision. I even like dabbled a little bit into like hypnotherapy, things that like help me just declutter. Because none of this stuff, like I don't often talk about this um, type of way in which I've kind of like defragged or reformatted my mind or my soul. Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the woo woo, this is like some, magic voodoo stuff, but it really isn't. It's
Did you think that to yourself at one point in your younger life too, though?
no, I
You
was
ever
just
think
not
that?
exposed to it.
Just
Yeah,
never exposed to it. Okay, okay.
because we're artists. Like the moment you create something beautiful, it's already transcendent. So I'm used to that. Like I'm not going to be like,
The
oh,
language of
anything
that.
that is, yeah,
Yeah.
and also like, if you've practiced religion, you know what a transcendent thing is. So it's not strange to me. It's not foreign. But then to practice it in such a way was new for me. So I was like, let me get into it, you know? Um, and it helped me immensely. I mean, we could go on a lot about that, but like I feel like that's not the heart of the whole conversation we're gonna have. That's a technique that I used, but all in all, it was just a way to give permission to myself, to be honest with myself with what I really wanted, and then also to kick my butt, my own butt, and just start doing it.
I
Yeah.
think that this conversation, even though yes, it is not necessarily the big heart of what we are going to be moving this conversation into, but I think it's so fundamental in terms of, especially in the world now, when people are questioning themselves, they are questioning their identity, they're questioning the path, because the world is moving at such a rapid pace, that sometimes we're just struggling to keep up. And so understanding that self-talk, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart, this topic is so fundamental, but I agree with you that it's not a conversation that happens, I think, often enough, to be honest, in a way. So I love that you've shared that and really been open with that. And there's one more question that I want to ask about that is I heard you say that you had to go from thinking or questioning, I'm not enough, to saying, I am enough, internally acting as if. For
Yeah.
somebody who may be listening and who have been following you or who has this dream, and I love this image, how you described it as you pictured your future self, you envisioned that, and you thought, okay, well, that's where I want to go. That resonates. What is that first step towards that? Before a person can get there, who wants to get there, do they just say, I'm enough? Or what was it for you that led to that conviction? Was it fake it till you make it? Or what was it for you?
I would say it's like a two-step process. First, you have to give yourself the audacity to just dream first. You know, oftentimes when I meet new collaborators, people, you know, on a movie production team or like musical collaborators or whatever, co-stars, if I'm just getting to know them, the first thing I ask is not like, what have you been up to or whatever. Like that's, I don't know. It's the loaded question. People ask that too often and you just get weird answers. The first thing I ask after we get acquainted a little bit is, hey, if there were no limitations to your resources and there were no like obligations and finances were not a issue, in 3 years' time, what would you be doing? You get to choose anything. You could be anywhere, do anything. What is it? And you'd be surprised at how many people can't answer that
Oh,
question
I was going to
because
say the same thing. But you probably get a lot of blank faces. Right.
but then you know my olive branch to them is I encourage them to go step by step to get there and to like at least dare to say it, to vocalize it. Like what do you really want? Because first answer is usually something that someone else told them. Like, oh yeah, if I'm in this role right now, then 3 years from now it's just like a more advanced version of this role.
What they
They
should
rarely
want.
yeah. Yeah, or like, you know, if they're an actor now, then it's like, oh, I'm a more famous actor. You know, if they're an assistant director now, I work on a bigger film. But rarely is it ever a radical change. You know, like I'm gonna change my job. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like I'm gonna create my own green light. Like you rarely get those answers. So step one, and honestly, that is by far the hardest step. Give yourself first permission to dream and really like get into it. What makes you happy? And keep dreaming, keep asking why, how, can I, until like you're truly moved. Because there are some answers that, you know, I could ask somebody, what would you want to do in 3 years? They could say it, and it would, you could tell it makes them feel nothing. You know, it was almost like, oh, where are you going later? Oh, outside. Like it means nothing. Like it does nothing to them. But once you ask that question enough, and like something is stirring in your soul, you're like, oh, I'm on to something. That was in there.
That inner voice, it's been nagging
Yeah,
at you. You just never really paid attention to it. You never gave yourself that permission to do that.
yeah. And
What's the
then
second step?
the second step is to make it small and achievable. I think oftentimes when we have a big dream, the reason we don't act on it is because we only see it at its grandest, largest, and furthest scale. And then you're like, well, gee,
There's no way.
little old me, like, what am I even gonna do? you know?
That's too hard.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody's like, you know, this high schooler, you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I want to be like Steven Spielberg. I'm like, well, okay, first, there's like a million things you have to learn before you can be Spielberg. But what can you do today? Like, same, it's the same onion peeling thing. Okay, okay, being a director, what does that mean? You break it down. Okay, what is the thing within that that you like the most? Oh, I like stories. Okay, do you know how to create stories? Okay, maybe I need to learn how to write scripts. Okay, but I'm not even good at writing. Oh, so should I start learning how to write first? It's like, where do I start learning how to write? Maybe it's creative writing, poems. Maybe it's as small as like taking a YouTube tutorial. Maybe it's reading a book. It's like, oh, I could buy a book today. Hey, that's totally achievable. And
Totally
that
achievable. Yeah,
and that actually legitimately gets you closer to being a Spielberg. For real, right? So
absolutely.
that. And then I think you're well on your way after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the. So I've been going to the gym, and I have a personal trainer, and she's one of the things that she taught me was you just need to put your shoes on. So you put
Hmm.
your shoes on, you're gonna go, right? You're not gonna be like, I'm gonna go back to bed, right? Put your shoes on, show up, like you're saying. I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is also it's so true that we tend to think, look at the mountain. There are baby steps towards that. And what is the smallest step? And actually, even if we look at that smallest step and there's a part of us that's like, yeah, but that's so small. If you just do it, you're actually already getting into the momentum. And like you said, the next thing will follow, the next thing will follow. It's so simple, but something, very challenging for many of us to do. Jonathan, you right now you are in, I really wanted to do this in person, but I know you are in Vancouver right now. You're in Canada, which is where I was born.
Yeah.
My,
Where you
my
went to school.
and I went to school here too. I went to university here. So, what brings you there at this moment? If you could share with everybody.
So, in that period that I was talking about during COVID, like uh, me and a couple friends, we started to develop like a number of different projects, and one of them was called Rags to Richmond. Richmond being like Richmond, Vancouver, Richmond, BC.
But you were in LA. I'm just trying to get the timelines right
Yeah,
at the
yeah, yeah.
time. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
you've
how.
actually always had an affinity for Vancouver, Richmond. That's actually where I was born. So,
Yeah,
unsurprisingly, right? I mean,
yeah.
so yeah, go
I
ahead.
wouldn't say I had an affinity, but like the vision of that story had to be Richmond.
I see why.
I had
Tell us
never,
more.
I had never lived there. I had been to Vancouver and Richmond to perform before. I had been there once, and I had worked with many Vancouverites and Richmond, I don't know what they call them, Richmond residents in Hong Kong because,
Richmonders.
and I'll go into like why, but so it felt like I had secondhand knowledge or secondhand familiarity with this place. And so as we were developing the story, which is about the first ever Asian male beauty pageant in Canada, it's a true story, but we're doing the fun musical comedy version of this story. Um, it kind of all made sense, you know.
Wait,
The
so
intent,
the
yeah.
Asian male beauty pageant. So let's just zone in on what was was this a story that you'd always known about, or was this something that came up? Like, how did you realize that if you'd only been to Richmond once, is this something that your friends had talked about, or what was the catalyst for this particular idea?
So in film school, maybe because you went to film school, um, one of the most fundamental, perhaps even cliche things they say about your first film is that you should write what you know, right? And one of the things that I had known for the longest time was how the Hong Kong entertainment industry had shaped me, the system, the ins and outs, the people who come from all over the place to like try and find their dreams in TV and in this particular place. Like Hong Kong is truly a melting pot for like not just Asian talent from Malaysia, from Taiwan, from Indonesia, from Philippines, but also from abroad, from New York, from Vancouver, et cetera, et cetera. And so all these like crazy things that happened to me in the entertainment industry, I was like, how do I how do I give it a new spin? Because people talk about the Hong Kong entertainment industry all the time. and it's kind of played out. And it would be the same as someone talking about the American, the LA, like these images are so played out. So I was like, what is new and what hasn't been told? And I was like, the Richmond connection. Because there is like a crazy amount, like over 50% of our Miss Hong Kongs, the winners, come from Vancouver.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. If you
It's not a
go,
stats that I would know, right?
if you go to like at least for a certain period, like when they opened it up to like Miss Chinese International, there was a time before that. But anyway, if you go to Fairchild, which is it's a Vancouver radio station. You go to their office, or they're also a TV station. You go to their office, they have this wall of fame, and there's all these winners of their talent show, and their pageants, and you're like, I know all these guys. They all ended up in Hong Kong, you know? Um, Linda Chong, Eliza Sam, Gloria Tang, uh, and like on the music side, we had like Phil Lam, even the guy I work with, Byron. Byron Jan, they're all from the same town, worked in the same studio in the same 10-year span. I'm like, this is crazy, right? But nobody talks about it. Like even Vancouverites don't know this. So I'm like, how do we tap that and use that as a vehicle to tell a story about people who never got a chance from where they're from. They never saw themselves on the screens or in the media where they're from. They didn't have heroes where they're from. And they just took a shot in the dark and they're like, can I do something? Can I be more? I was like, now I get it. Like if it's rags to Richmond, I can tell that story. I can tell that underdog story that's based on real kind of immigrant, um, the grind to try and find a place for themselves. So it just grew organically.
I
Yeah.
love hearing you talk about it because when you're talking about it, you can really feel your passion and almost visualize the images of this story. And so, as this story started to take place, I also love the framing of this too, and how it relates to your story and what you just shared about that moment of darkness, dark night of the soul, we may call it, right? Questioning ourselves, can I do this? Am I good enough? And I feel like this is very human and very relatable and a very universal story that needs to be told in multiple different ways because it's always going to be true. So you're writing the story, it's coming together. This is a collaborative story that you wrote with your friends. Is that what it is? Is it a
So
group?
I co-created this with my co-producer slash artist manager. You know her, Justina.
Justina. Okay.
And then also a friend of ours, Simon Yin, who is a filmmaker and actor, but also someone who has worked in the West and the East. I think he's currently in Hong Kong right now, actually, running a pickleball company. That's his like side passion. He's his
So this is
passion.
this is not a person in the industry.
He is a person in the industry. He's a filmmaker who also loves pickleball.
Oh,
So
okay, got it, got it, got it. So
we're all
pickleball is
we're
his
all
passion.
we're all
Multi-passion.
very 4D.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I was
So
following you one direction, then you said he has a pickleball company. I was like, did I miss something there? No, I didn't miss anything. No, okay.
so we started creating this thing, and I started writing music for it, because I was like, okay, a story like this, I don't want it to be like a typical Asian American kind of immigrant story where it's mostly about pain and it's too serious. I'm not saying there's a place for all of those stories and they have informed, the AAPI experience. They've been really important in the fabric of it. But I was like, how do we take this kind of realm? How do we take the subject matter and we make it even more commercial, make it reach further, incentivize more audience members to come in, like be joyful, but also learn about our culture, musicals. And
Hmm.
the thing is, like, I have that skill set. I can write the music. I can start to create like the dance and the visual style of it with our collaborators. I was like, let's do that. And again, like, right, it's not just write what you know, use what you know to the fullest extent and just like put it in the pot and stir it and see what happens, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, Rags to Richmond, the concept of it as like a musical comedy, that's how it started during lockdown.
And then I know that it was filmed in a very specific way. So you can tell us a little bit about that. I think it's a vertical format series. Was that a very intentional choice at the time?
So originally it was conceived as a TV series because there's so much story to be told, so many characters, the world's so vast, it could only fit in a series. And then there was interest from US studios at the time to develop it into like a streaming or network series. We're very happy about that, obviously. But then we had our first um, obstacle, which was they loved the concept, but they were like, we don't know if it being Asian American based would sell. Because most of these companies have really strong African American creative executives, even Latin American, but they rarely ever had lead Asian American creative executives. So they didn't have eyes on like how to make it successful. So it just floated. We just couldn't sell it. They loved the idea, but like I don't know how to package it. Like so we just held on to it for a couple of years. And then I just started developing a whole bunch of other projects, which like I guess sold quicker because they were more in my wheelhouse, they were more Asian and then we sold to Asian. But then something happened, which was like fast forward to 2024. Okay, I'm skipping ahead a couple years. I don't need to tell you my life story. 2024. Um, there's a series of events. I was at the Cannes Film Festival selling a different film, and somebody like a team bui of mine,
Which is a predecessor.
yeah, a mentor even. She said, "Hey, what happened to that project, Rags to Richmond?" And I was like, oh, damn. She remembered, like, of all the things, like, of all the recent things I'd done, she remembered that one, which was like kind of like in it was in the filing cabinet. Like,
It was floating. It was not nowhere right now. It was like
yeah.
shoved somewhere. Okay.
And then I was like, okay, cool. Like, and I told her about, I had been thinking about it. I hadn't done anything. Let me introduce you to some people. And I went to Taiwan. And there were, again, like some people who were like, wow, this is fascinating. This doesn't exist. Like an Asian American musical comedy in English, but you're going to amass a team that's going to be able to do it from the West. Like, what is that, right? And then and then all this was going on. I was like, is this momentum? I can't tell, or are people just giving me compliments, right? And then a call came in from Canada.
Yeah.
They're like, this thing is based in Canada. You should pitch it here. And so I flew to Canada and we pitched it. And at that time, the TV market was not doing so good. It was the writer's strike,
Yeah, I
uh,
remember.
the box office and streamers and networks were not buying because like it was just financially just a bad idea. So like let me pivot it to a movie format. But even that seemed like a risk. And at that time, I was like, well, how can I make it like really easy for people to understand that this IP works? Because every time everybody's like, it's a great idea, but we don't know if there's a market for it because there's no prototypes for this.
When
Nobody's
you
done
say,
it.
just pause for a second. When you say IP, because I've heard you said it a few times, just in case people are listening, don't know what that is. Can you explain that just real brief?
It's an intellectual property, so it's an original idea that can take basically any form. So Pokemon is an IP that can be a game, it can be toys, it could be movies, it could be live shows. An IP is just a world that you build and characters that are distinct. So Rags to Richmond, as an IP, I was like trying to find out how to show the world that it works. And at that time, I had just um, I had just come out of some discussions with some Chinese investors who were urging me to, outside of TV series for other stuff, look into vertical dramas.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
right?
Tell us a little
So
bit. What
like,
does that mean? What is a vertical drama?
so these are shot vertically. They are optimized so that when you watch them on your phone, you don't need to turn it. It's long wise. It's portrait mode. And for the past like 5 or 6 years, they've been blowing up in China. Each episode is like 60 to 90 seconds, and they're oftentimes like 50, 60, sometimes 90, 100 episodes, sometimes smaller, 30, 40. And they were like, as a producer of content in Asia, like, are you down to do this? I'm like, meh. And I kind of shrugged it off, right?
Did you? Why?
Yeah.
You just weren't, why? What was it initially about it that didn't
Well,
attract you?
because usually these were like low budget, and they were usually not getting like very professional writers or actors to do it, but they were highly addictive. It was a huge, it's like a multi-billion dollar market that was blowing up. But I was just like, meh, I don't understand it. And then I just kind of, and then when I was in Vancouver, I was like, wait a second. If I shot it at that budget range, but I elevated the production values of this, and then we got people online to watch the heck out of this, then we could gather data. We could prove that this thing works. And so that's when it began. We started thinking about Rags to Richmond as a vertical uh, series. And we shot it. Um, I went to Vancouver 2024 summer. We were like, okay, if we're going to shoot this, we're going to shoot this fast. So we learned more about how people shoot vertical dramas. We did scripting in a month. We shot it in 9 days, and we did post-production for a month, and we released it over the holiday season in December.
In December. So you had the idea for a while, but in terms of the execution of it, as soon as you decided, then it sounded like you just hit the ground running.
Yeah,
And
we got the team. It's all Vancouverite, like um, mostly Vancouver cast and crew, and then just did it. We broke down like how people logistically did these vertical dramas, and we're like, let's apply it to our thing. And it ended up doing like 9 million plus views in the first like 3 weeks.
wow,
We're like, that's crazy. And
wow.
then um, Canadian agencies started taking notice. Investors started like to have more confidence that this thing is real and that there's traction. And then we started building out the next iteration of it, which is what I'm about to go into production for, which is the movie version. Whole new script, similar but like larger cast of characters, and just like on the scale of a theatrical movie.
That's amazing. So you have this idea, you innovated, and I love how you told the story of the idea that ended up taking form was the one that you dismissed, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes it's an idea that is already within us, but we just had to look at it differently. We just,
yeah.
we just had to look at it differently. And so that came to fruition. At that time, were you just like, were you asking yourself the same question? What is this? What is happening right now? Or was it all, were you head down, yet this is meant to happen? What was that feeling like for you when you could see these things started to, momentum truly, truly start to build up?
I think one thing that might apply to like anyone who's like watching this is, yes, you have to have like the sights and sounds and the taste of your dream, but you also have to acknowledge that the path there is wholly unpredictable, because when you have this thing that you're calling in, the world, the universe doesn't necessarily just give you what you want, it gives you what you need. The vision is the starting point. It gives you motivation, it gives you clarity, it gives you a first step. Then you gotta truly be open-minded about what the world sends your way for you to actually succeed. Because if you're like, well, I wanted it to specifically be a TV series, and anything other than that is a no for me. Sure, like it teaches you to not waste time on things that are not related, but you should also be aware there's a million things that are related to it. shooting a vertical series is actually not that far off the path from making your thing real,
That's another,
right?
maybe that's a step towards that big dream, right? That's exactly how you
Yeah.
described it just now.
So
So, so this project right now, how it moved from here, got a lot of attention, a lot of positive traction, then moved into investors, and now you're building this project. So I know that you're getting into production in October. And so I'd love to know, I also saw that you had held open auditions. So can you tell us a little bit about that process of starting to retell the story? Is it the same story as the vertical series, or is it just a fully fledged story of it, or what would you say in terms of the comparison?
so the vertical series was like a 29 episode series of like uh 60 to 90-second clips. So all in all, it was a little bit just shorter than like a feature.
Okay.
It was like 70, if you stitched everything together, it was like 60 something, 70 minutes. Um, and then we're like, well, there's no point just like repackaging that exact same story because it was designed for that medium. Like each 60-second episode had to be its own thing. So it wouldn't work if you just like, oh, let's stitch everything together. And like, because the format doesn't work, the storytelling mechanisms, the framing devices don't work. So we started, but we're like, but we got to acknowledge where this came from. So that the digital series became the prequel, and then this became like the actual pageant and like the boys coming together. The male pageant boys who are all misfits, all the losers, all the people who never had like a shot at anything. It's just like, let's do it. And they all come together. So this is like the spectacle of it. But why did we do open auditions? Well, first of all, we took a digital first approach to building up this story, Rags to Richmond, right? It was all digitally released, it was all free. And we're like, okay, if there's an audience here, can we reach out digitally to people who are interested in being a part of it? And that's what we did. When we had our dance and vocal auditions, we did not have a casting director. Um, we just put two Instagram posts out, one for dance, and literally we just put posts out. And for our dance auditions, uh, signups wise, it was close to 300 people. And then we whittled it down to like 120-ish who we saw in person.
Wow.
So,
In one day?
mhm,
In one
yeah,
day? Seriously, in one day?
we saw all of them in one day, and
Oh,
then we did callbacks the next day.
okay. And what about the
So,
vocals? Similar?
a little less. Uh, we ended up seeing, I would say, like 3 dozen people. There were a lot of submissions actually, but like the ones that were right for this kind of like the roles, we
Mhm.
a couple dozen, but very strong auditions. Like I was like, wow, you guys are all from one city. That's crazy.
Was
All
it all Vancouver or elsewhere or no?
Vancouver. So we had a real attachment to being authentic to the story. Like if you're going to be in Richmond, you're going to shoot Richmond for Richmond. If you're going to tell the story about Vancouverites, cast Vancouverites.
Yeah.
I know, and for all of those who are watching this who don't know, that never happens.
No.
Vancouver is always shot for LA or New York or Boston or wherever or Seattle.
If you're from Vancouver, you're like, that's Vancouver. I know where
Yeah.
that is. Yeah, right. But you're right. It's the backdrop for all the different cities for everyone else. Yeah.
And then obviously nobody, not obviously, but Richmond is not on film.
It's
It
true.
just doesn't exist. Like it just people don't know what it looks like unless you live here. So I was like, let's make a point of this. Like we told a story and people resonated with it. Like let's honor that, right? Instead of like, oh, now we're like now we have these resources. Let's like do something like do what everyone else does, which is like move it to LA or whatever. It's like no, like let's honor that. Like the people here gave us something that was like powerful. We still uh, allowed for international submissions, but like the bulk is Vancouver. So
Wow.
yeah, that's
Was
how
there
it happened.
was there anything that really surprised you or took you by surprise during the audition process, or any kind of key characteristics that came up that you were looking for, or maybe that you didn't know you were looking for that showed up in that audition?
Yeah, because I was one of the script writers for the movie as well. Um, the dance element of it wasn't like just people who can dance. Because a lot of the times when dancers get cast in movies, it's just people who can dance. These were all lived in characters. So outside of like excellent dance ability, I was also looking for people who really were able to bring themselves to the choreography, who fully showed up like unapologetically as themselves to these auditions. And we didn't just do combinations, we also had improvisations with like prompts and like scenarios. And we put people in different groups to see how they worked. Honestly, it was an unconventional way of doing auditions, but the auditionees killed it. And a lot of them ended up saying like, hey, they loved it because it wasn't like any other audition they'd ever done. Because we treated them like artists and not just technicians. Um, and so we were really looking for, yes, dancers, but people first. Um, what shocked me was how generous they were with who they were inside and how passionate and like always saying yes, everybody who came in. Like nobody was like, oh, I don't understand that. You give them a problem, they're already doing it. They're like,
Mm.
say less, and then and they just did the thing. Um, what didn't shock me, but what I want people to know, it shocked other people, other collaborators, maybe even investment level people were like, what do you think of the dancers? And I was like, easily LA level, easy. And they were shocked. I'm like, why are you shocked? Vancouver is a metropolitan city. They can easily go to LA or New York to train. Thousands of Hollywood movies shoot here. Why don't you think they would be trained to that world-class level?
Mm.
And yet it's a hidden treasure. I'm afraid, I mean, I want to give them props, but at the same time, I'm afraid that when this comes out, people will know and I will just lose all my dancers. But you know what? I'm going to shoot it first. Yeah.
Right, you're seeing the gold mine here already, and you're like these
Oh, excellent.
right? Yeah, they're all excellent. And
Singers,
so would you?
dancers, and we're about to go into actors auditions. Now we have a casting director because we have to go wide,
Right.
because a couple of our leads, we want to go nationwide. We want to go, to the Toronto, Quebec. We want to get like the best uh, actor for those like couple lead roles. But yeah, it's exciting.
So would you say that that attitude of saying yes, it's almost that openness, is what really showed that quality of bringing themselves to the role? Because I think we're talking about auditions, but really we're talking about performing, but we're always performing, whether you are in an office, whether you work in whatever world you work in. If you are dealing with people, you have your own stage, you have your own way of putting yourself out there. And so this in itself of performing and really bringing yourself to something that you want, is a really important mindset piece as well. And so you said always saying yes. Was there anything else that you could pinpoint tangibly to determine that person is bringing themselves? Is it an energy? Is it a feeling? What would you say?
When you take choreography or you take a song, you being a vocalist and artist yourself, you can sing it like everyone else sings it. You could sing it correctly. Um, that to me is, in this day and age, that's almost like the best way to get eliminated.
Hmm.
Because look, if you're showing up to this thing, the bottom line is you can do the thing. You can sing the song. You've heard it. Like otherwise you wouldn't be here. Like this is already the bottom line. But if you do it the correct way as an artist, that basically just tells me that you either don't have a personality or you don't think you're special. And you need both of those things to be a successful artist because it doesn't matter if you're a dancer, a singer, an actor, you're a group dancer, or you're a solo or lead or whatever. we're in the age where like you really have to feel real and unique for people to gravitate toward. You know, we're long over the pristine cookie cutter performer.
Yeah.
Like we like someone because of their eccentricity, sometimes because of their imperfections. The perfect performer on a technical level, because like education and training is so widely available, is like that's the baseline now. You know, we've evolved so much as a society. And the same goes for, you know, and it happens like every generation it happens. You know, before it was like, oh, if you go to college, it means you're going to get a good job. Now, a lot of people go to college. So what next?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Same thing with performers. It's like, oh, you can sing in tune. Okay, yeah, good job.
Be
You
a
can sing.
given. Right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, why are you not singing in tune? You get free vocal lessons on YouTube.
Exactly.
Like you should be like, you know, like it's crazy. Like I'm seeing some of these artists and they're doing things I've never seen before because information, classes, communities are everywhere.
So I think what
So
also you're saying is that the skill, yes, you acquire your skill, but that's not going to be the only thing that's going to take you to the next level. It will take you to a baseline, essentially, especially in the world where information is so readily available. And all of these steps, again, these are all steps towards those bigger dreams. They're more available than ever, and it will continue to be more and more available. But then what about who are you? Like, who are you at your core? And are you brave enough to show it? Are you brave enough to say, you know, this is who I am, this is me, this is how I am? Because that's what differentiates you at the end of the day. What I believe.
yeah, and you know, I feel like this is a hot take. Talent can be trained. I truly do not believe that anyone is born with zero talent. Like we're all kind of similarly untalented when we're born.
We all fell the first time we started walking, did we not?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like
But
nobody came.
we have a similar level of ability to learn things. And then you just choose to learn it or not learn it. And then if you learn it early, then you look talented because you're further ahead than other people. But it doesn't actually mean that the person who learned it late cannot be equally talented with just effort and time. So talent is important, but it's only 30%. 70% is the thing you cannot teach,
Which is
which is your unique life experience and what that means when you execute a thing that everyone else is executing. Same lines, same scene, same steps, same character. But then because of you and who you are, nobody can teach that because that's millions of core memories of experiences and ups and downs and things you have and have not that make you see that one line differently. The blocker to you doing that is again all the way back to the beginning. I'm not good enough, so I have to put on the mask of what I think other people might like, and so I pretend to be something else. And that immediately reads to a director, a producer, or a casting director as like, I don't know who you are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think to also complement what you're saying is that idea of the skills are your external stuff. That's outward looking. That's this, what can I get, what do I wear? How do I look? You know, all these things. But what you're saying is what really matters, 70%, right, is looking inward and being brave enough to look inward and really understand that your experiences too, as you said, all of these negative things that happen to you as part of your life story, as part of who you are, and that's what makes you absolutely unique, and that's what's going to make you stand out here in whatever
Yeah.
industry, whether it's on camera, on stage, in the boardroom, in life, wherever.
Yeah. I mean, you're a coach. You know that talent can be coached. If
Of
people,
course. Because one of the
oh,
number one questions people ask me, can I really learn? I'm like, yes,
you just
yes,
have to
you
want
can.
it
Exactly.
with the right amount of passion and the right amount of like, just like joy you find, or maybe sometimes you just need to grind it out. Almost anything can be learned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to move towards something, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, I love how you said that the path is unpredictable, and in some ways you want it to be that way because you can't possibly have envisioned that you
Yeah.
would have done this in such a short span of time. And from there, again, the evidence shows once you've hit alignment or something, and something is truly resonant to what it is that what you deeply value, the universe moves and things fall into place. And just like right now, with production starting in October, everything coming together for you here. What are you most excited about for when it comes to Rags to Richmond, the film?
This is something that I literally every morning, like when I look in the mirror and I brush my teeth, and it's just part of like a little sequence of things that I remind myself of these things that I want. It's making art that touches people all around the world and having the greatest people come together to make this art with me. That is truly exhilarating. Like, I cannot wait to see what other people bring, how this platform lets them shine, and how this synergy touches people that I could not have imagined touching. And it's not about, like, you know this. Yeah, sure, you want people to see you for how good you are, but that's almost like that's the warm up, like you grow past that really quickly because after you get a couple good shows and people clap and you feel good about it, then the next thing is like, how do I make them feel? Like, if I can make them feel inspired, joyous, brave, moved, moved to positive action, ooh, how can you even compare that to, oh, someone thought I was a good singer? Like,
Right.
it's so, yeah,
What are you
great.
feeling? What's the feeling right now that you're getting as you're talking about this? What is that emotion?
Um, it's like electricity, your whole body's kind of pulsing with energy. It's like, your tank is full. Let's do a thing that could be hard, but like I got some mileage, right? Like I'm good.
I love that because I think you've described that magnetism. When you talk to people who are very passionate about what they do and they have that energy and drive, they are revealing of that part of that internal self out
Mhm.
to you. And that in its already is very, very magnetizing. So I'm genuinely excited to hear you talk about this, and even more excited to see you continue to manifest this path ahead of you. And I just want to thank you for being so open and honest with your stories. We could probably go on for another hour, but I want to respect your time, and I really appreciate you
Are there any
sharing.
like important like questions that or key, because look, I'm sorry that I didn't start out by like properly understanding like the form of your podcast, because if I had, or the main things you're trying to like equip people with, I probably would have like shaped it differently.
No,
But like
you,
the
it was
style of your
exactly, no, it's beautiful. It's exactly, this conversation is exactly how it's meant to be in this moment. And I love all of the stories and the framing that you shared. I think what I love about it in particular is that it's so applicable to just any situation. Yes, we are talking about being in front of the camera, being on stage and making movies. But what we're really talking about is just dreams, aspirations, and evolving to a different version of us, reframing seemingly negative situation into a positive. And I want so many things that you had said, which is, looking at what do you have? Start with where you are. What do you have? What are you good at? What do you love to do? And then iterating from that and innovating from that and being open-minded enough to welcome possibilities and not be so hard fast that it has to look this way. But that requires a lot of tuning inward and giving yourself that opportunity and that self-talk of, yes, I can do this and my dreams matter. And I think through that's how we create that ripple effect. The ripple effect of energy, of positive energy, has to come from us. It has to come from within us. So I do have two more questions for you.
go ahead.
If you could be the inner voice of wisdom for
Mhm.
your younger
Yeah.
self who was just starting out on this, I'm talking about like pre 2012, okay? Right.
Brilliant.
What's one thing you would want them to know, want him to know?
Be grateful, be curious. I think with those two things, you can do anything.
Be grateful, be curious.
Um, when I was younger, I was more competitive. I was always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I wasn't taking stock of the great things that were already happening. And that oftentimes made me undervalue not just the things that I was doing, but also the people around me who were like believing in me, supporting me, encouraging me. Gratitude also gives you perspective because it makes you realize that anything that does happen is usually not just your effort. It is a grand collision of a lot of people's beliefs and passions. But other than really like having that positivity, it also opens you up to a possibility.
Mm.
Because when you're grateful for these people, you start seeing what they can do. You see their potential and you do more with every single fateful encounter that you have, as opposed to letting them like a great thing happens and you just walk by it and you try to move on to the next thing and you're like, wow, like I just blew past that.
Yeah.
It could have blossomed into something great, and because I was not grateful, I lost it, right? Um, Curiosity, like being curious. I think oftentimes when we say like to have a vision, to have passion, some people think it means to be stubborn, to be a perfectionist. And we have this weird way of thinking of perfectionism. We know it's bad, but we like low key gloat about, oh, I'm a perfectionist because it seems cool to like want to be like really difficult about wanting a specific thing.
I have high standards.
Yeah, but it's actually super toxic
It's
because
very,
because when you gloat and pride yourself on being a perfectionist,
you're never
you're
good enough.
subscri- you're also subscribing to the belief that you know what perfection is.
Hmm. It's true.
That that means you're not curious. When you want to do a thing and there's like 1,000 ways to do it, you literally shut off everything else because you're like, that's not perfection. But that's so stupid because there are other brilliant people, other passionate, talented, loving people out there that could help you do it way better. So like be more grateful, be way more curious, and like I probably would be even happier. But then I wouldn't change a thing because if I didn't stumble early on, if I wasn't in a rush to succeed when I was younger, I would not have learned the lessons that now like are ingrained in me. Yeah.
Be curious, be grateful because that welcomes possibility and positivity. And I think the what I'm hearing you say is that the antithesis or the block for that is when we're just rushing through life. When we're rushing through life, it's hard to be grateful. Grateful necessitates us slowing down and actually appreciating,
Yeah.
shedding, putting our attention on something with appreciation. That
Mhm.
requires us to stop and pause and really notice our surroundings. And then the second thing, and I think that is related, of course, as well, is that with that gratitude is be curious. It's like, oh, I'm curious about this. This is an idea that I had. If we're constantly busy, we won't have time to entertain those ideas. But on top of that, it's the antithesis or the block for curiosity is perfection, something that so many of us struggle with, especially if you're an artist. I mean, the conversations that are about perfection that we have all the time behind the scenes here. But that's also a very human instinct to want to have. But you're right that if you're constantly chasing perfection, you're constantly chasing, and you're never actually being present and being curious and allowing these new opportunities to come in. So be grateful and be curious. Okay, love that. Now, here's a different question for you. Okay, this one is if you could imagine your future self looking back on everything that you have experienced, you've done everything, you've achieved everything, what you've wanted to accomplish, what would you most want them to say about the path that you've taken? What would you most want him to say about the path you've taken?
There are no big problems. Like, yeah,
Anymore.
like sometimes I imagine like my higher self, like my future self,
Yeah.
who has already done the things and done it with grace and generosity and kindness. And then as I kind of travel through these like challenges and I continue to channel that, and then I look back even 6 months, 3 weeks, one day, everything that I thought was a big deal was never a big deal.
Mm.
It was just emotion. It was just one of the motions that I needed to do to get to the next thing. So yeah, like stop getting caught up on things because there really are no big problems. If you're alive and you're healthy and you're capable of love, there's literally no big problems.
That's so true. That's so true. When we're in the moment and we're getting wrapped up in all of these things and we're rushing around and we're wrapped up in perfectionism and all this self-sabotaging, self-talk, we can definitely get wrapped up in this idea that the world is collapsing, this is terrible. But you're right, if you come out of it and you think 6 months from now, I'm still alive. I still have health. I'm still here. Look back on today, the things that you're going through today, and you think, you know what, that was something I needed to go through. And in a way, I had to learn. There were some insights in there. What are the things I have to learn? You know what, I'm here. It's not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
What a beautiful way to project that future self onto yourself now. So, for anybody who wants to keep up with your latest projects or follow you on your journey, what would you say is the best way for them to do that?
Go on, if you have Instagram, go on Instagram. If not, Facebook or
What are you on Instagram? Just I know I have your Instagram.
at JWO Music. JWO is my nickname since high school. JWO Music.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling you J-Wo from now on.
The Vancouver dancers all call me JWO. I'm like, that's crazy.
Really? That's
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious. So you're
Because
gonna be there
sometimes
for
I,
the go ahead.
because that sometimes I use that as like a logo on my music videos. So yeah,
It's your signature.
yeah.
I
Now you
love
know.
that. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for taking this time to share your experiences and your insights and your stories with us today. I really wish you all the best with your upcoming movie. I'm so excited for you to see where this road takes you.
Crystal, and thank you for reaching out. It's been a few years, but let me tell you something fun, and I hope you edit this in as like a little nugget.
Okay.
Even though I've gone on to do a lot of like performances since our like intense training together, and every now and then I'll return for some classes. I've done musicals, I've done other records. There is this one recording from 2018 of a vocal exercise warm up that we had from like one class
You're
that I
good.
do. I use it like probably every other day.
You're kidding.
I sound different now than I do in that vocal recording because head voice is different, the bridge is different. But yeah, so I hear your voice often. Yeah, you're in there.
I'm in your head. Like, oh,
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for sharing that. I had
yeah,
no idea. Now I'm like, 2018, what was that vocal exercise?
yeah.
As you know, when I create exercises, it's all tailored to whatever I'm hearing and the voice that I'm working with and the situation that
I
you're
can,
in.
I can even send it to you.
I
I
would
think it's
love that. Do a
great.
breakdown of
Yeah,
that vocal.
things that I used to have to like jump to head voice earlier. I was like, I'm able to like push it a lot more in terms of mixed voice, and I was like, oh, that's crazy.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
You know what though? I think that's a testament of you, of your you're always somebody who's willing to learn. That's one of the things I always remembered about you is that you're always willing to learn new things and willing to entertain new ideas and try new things and also to hone your craft in that with that kind of discipline. I've always appreciated that about you. So this is truly a testament. Something from 2018, you're still doing all all vocalists, my students out there, okay, every other day, all right? That's what's going on here, right?
and if I'm prepping for show every day.
That's
Every
that's
day, and
amazing.
then I'll have my vocal coach for that show. Sometimes a musical, they'll bring in the vocal instructor. They'll have their, a different style of their thing, but I'll do my own warm up too. So There
Amazing.
you
I
go.
love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. That really does mean a lot. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Before you go, if today's conversation got you thinking about your own self talk or why you sometimes hold back from speaking your truth, then I have something just for you. Head over to quiz.krystaldiaz.com and take my free inner voice archetype quiz. In just a few minutes, you'll find out what's really going on beneath the surface when it comes to using your voice. And you'll also get simple, practical, and tailored tips to help you express yourself more freely and confidently. Because your voice matters and the world needs to hear your unique gifts. So that's quiz.krystaldiaz.com. I can't wait to hear what you discover.